What comes to your mind when I say anime? Is it their interesting fashion choices? Their brightly colored hair? Or is it their enormous eyes? Hey yeah, why do anime characters have huge eyes? At first, one may assume that exaggerated eyes may be Japan's method of mimicking Western facial features. To find the answer, we need to go back to 1963. This is Astro Boy, a cartoon about the adventures of a robot boy who fights crimes. Created by Osamu Tezuka, who by that time was a known manga artist, it was his transition of his established character from manga to anime. But bringing Astro Boy to life was not an easy challenge. I mean, you try building an android to replace your recently passed child and making the pain go away. Sorry. That whole thing started as a joke and then it got real. For starters, to produce a 30-minute animated cartoon on a weekly basis was inconceivable. So simply, Tezuka had to find a way to adapt and simplify many Disney animation techniques to reduce costs by limiting the number of frames in production. Traditionally, a full animation requires 24 pictures per second, but Astro Boy includes only 8. Now furthermore, instead of animating body parts, the animators animated eyes to express fear, sadness, or joy. Animation director Gizaburo Tsuji notes that it took only 3 sheets of paper to animate both the eyes and the mouth.
Here are the eyes. You can close them, just the eyes, using 2 or 3 sheets of pictures. And you can do the same with the mouth. You can open the mouth and close it like this. When Astro Boy's talking, for instance, you don't need to move his body, like in Disney animation. If he's speaking for 3 seconds, let him blink his eyes once, and that's enough movement for children.
This allowed the team to produce material on a tight schedule with an inexperienced animation staff. But it still required the whole team to work under exceptionally tight settings. The animators were allowed to leave their post only for meals and toilet breaks. Each week was a literal hell. But Tezuka's method worked. Astro Boy proved to be an enormous success both in and outside of Japan, making the series' aesthetic a staple of anime, manga, and Japanese video games. However, that being said, not all of anime characters have stereotypically huge eyes. The works of Hayao Miyazaki and Katsuhiro Otomo often have more realistic eye proportions. And the rest is history, right? But perhaps the decision to focus on the eyes could extend beyond a Western influence or a practical solution. According to Masaki Yuki, a behavioral scientist at Hokkaido University, in Japan, people tend to look to the eyes for emotional cues, whereas Americans tend to look to the mouth.
Let's see your everything is okay face. No. That's bad. No, don't do that face.
Like this?
No.
Now this could be because, to quote Masaki, the Japanese, when in the presence of others, try to suppress their emotions more than Americans do. In any case, the eyes are more difficult to control than the mouth, he said, so they probably provide better clues about a person's emotional state, even if he or she is trying to hide it. And lastly, there could also be a psychological factor. Multiple studies have shown that pictures of babies, who also happen to have disproportionately large eyes, cause the release of dopamine, the same chemical that is released when people fall in love, empathize, and express other positive emotions. Alternatively, that's why the villains of anime have very narrow eyes. Narrow eyes are an indication that a character cannot be trusted. There is a Japanese proverb that translates as the eyes are the windows of the mind, or the eyes say more than the mouth. And I think we can all agree that in anime, those eyes express an array of emotions. Well, geeks, if you're like me, then you just learned something new and downright neato. And if you enjoyed this episode of me butchering names and pronunciations, then be sure to subscribe because there is so much more of that to come, along with the links of merchandise and social media in the description.